Can you tell me how often DEP reviews its air quality state implementation plan with EPA?
We're always, I think we're always engaged in some activities around that.
And do you ever revise it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it has been revised?
So it will get revised based on, we are part of the Ozone Transport Commission. So within the ozone transport region, there are certain things we are obligated to include within our state implementation plans. Those usually require reg change. So we go through a reg change and then ultimately submit that to the EPA for inclusion in our SIP, and then that goes through their comment process.
Okay, that's good. We've had some discussion about Pennsylvania joining some other 8 other Mid-Atlantic states to create a regional cap on carbon emissions from vehicles. Do you anticipate any additional requirements on emission testings? Or any additional regulations on them?
At this point, really, and to be clear, that's having a discussion about the policy and what it looks like. So there's no specificity to that degree of what that might look like, what that might require, correct.
And I also, in earlier discussions, I heard you discussing about the potential need for additional funds for implementation. Do you have any idea where we're at on that?
For implementation
of the regional cap, in implementing that?
Again, the specificity of the proposal would drive anything we would look for within that.
Just to shift gears.
And frankly, whether or not we would ultimately join as well. At this point, it's a conversation.
Thank you. And following up on Representative Griner's comments earlier, I know you get into the salacious nature of discussion about lobsters and shrimp dinners, and that the Auditor General had pointed out. And I must admit, my mind started to wander when someone named McDonnell started talking about going to McDonald's, and I'm sitting up here thinking about Big Macs and things like that,
so
as well as does the Secretary of DEP use a straw when he goes to McDonald's or not? But really what was lost in the whole thing was the discussion of SRBC, and this is a budget hearing. The governor has a proposal for like a 257% increase in funding. I'm not sure where you stood on that. Do you advocate for that increase?
Yes. Yeah. No.
Are we rewarding bad behavior?
No. In fact, it's as I said in the response earlier. I think there's 2 things going on, both in the right places. Right. One is that in the case of the Auditor General's report, the big thing we're working on is to make sure we're clear about where the authorities are and updating the agreements. I think that's the key piece we need to manage. I think there are a lot of services that we get, some of it's supportive of the Chesapeake Bay goals that we're engaged in, some of it being that time of travel of contaminants going down. They have a very robust watershed model that they use to help inform decisions that we make. And it's a multi-state compact, and I can tell you, and I think I probably shared a version of this last year when we were having this discussion. When you're the one in the room who's not paying their dues, that can't help but color the discussion a bit in terms of engagement with other states on these issues. So I think the dues are appropriate for the services that we're receiving from the Commission.